My name is Summaya Fire, and I am here with Survived and Punished as a partner in the organizing of the work. And I am here for a lot of reasons. Um, I feel like for the work that we do around mass incarceration and the criminalization of survivors of domestic and sexual violence, I make that connection around what possibly could have been for me as a person who could have been incarcerated. Um, Also, a person in terms of my mother could have been incarcerated for maybe killing my father because she's a survivor of domestic violence. I could have been incarcerated as a survivor for maybe killing the person who sexually assaulted me. So there's that connection there. Um, and I also feel like in this political climate where things are so heightened around violence that I spend a lot of my time um, safety planning and hoping and praying that I never experience incarceration. The work that we do with Survived and Punished is very important to me. The work that we do with the Free Marissa Now mobilization campaign is super, super important to me. The leading of that work, um, the mobilizing of this country and internationally with people who have boots on the ground and with coalitions and with the mixing and of so many organizations and movements was one of the most phenomenal experiences of my life. Um, it changed my life to set out to do that. It changed my life to walk through Marissa's journey with her. It is life changing to be a part of the restoration for her life and to be able to continue to walk the journey with her and also to continue to advocate for so many other survivors. It's never ever really been all about and only about Marissa. It's been about so many millions of survivors of domestic and sexual violence. And so we continue to build upon that work by educating communities, educating individuals, and ensuring that we are speaking out about the millions of people who are incarcerated in this country and what that means to those individuals, what it means to their families, and what it means to our communities for people to be missing, for people to be sitting in prisons who have not had a fair trial, who do not have access to the kind of mobilizing that we've been able to do for the few people that we have. So those are some of the reasons why I do the work that I do around mass incarceration and the criminalization of victims of domestic and sexual violence. So I am connected to this work because I am a partner with Survived and Punished through the African American Black Women's Cultural Alliance, and also too as a founding core team member of the Free Marissa Now mobilization campaign. So the work that we did with Free Marissa Now um, morphed into Survived and Punished. When Marissa was on home detention for 2 years, we were continuing to plan our work to ensure that other other people who were impacted by the judicial system, that their voices would be heard. And so I continue to work with my, what I call just my heart. The folks who are part of what I do out of my heart, I continue to work with them. Today, this convening was one of the most powerful things I've I've experienced, and so it's one of the most powerful things that I've experienced, and it is really I have no words to explain really what I have felt today. It has been so powerful. Let alone just, I mean, to have the experience of speaking out for someone who is facing 20 and 60 years in prison, someone who has been impacted by the justice system and doesn't have the means, or nobody knows who they are, or they don't matter, and then you walk that journey with them and then sit next to them and you hear their story, and the type of violence that they have experienced is experienced by so many other people. And to be in the room with so many strong advocates. The power of one is very powerful, but when we bring so many people together from, so many different states and so many walks of life and the intersections in which we live our lives, you just feel like we can change things, that we can make a difference. And I think that is one of the things that we really want to do, is to make sure that we make a difference, that things don't continue in the way that they have. So this has been a very powerful experience, and it makes me hopeful. It makes me look forward to learning more and walking this journey out to see where it will lead us to in this country. And that we will be able to change systems, that for one, that we will be able to educate even our own movement, the sexual and domestic violence movement, in making the connections to how survivors are criminalized, that we've still got a lot of work to do around that. So how this work has changed me or transformed me on a personal level, I'm still trying to figure that out. It's, on so many levels, the urgency that I felt in supporting Marissa and her family. At that time, I really didn't have an idea. I didn't have a clue of what it meant to support Marissa and her family. And so it was a learning process, and just stepping out in faith, and continuing to follow, I have to say, what's in my heart. I knew that at that time I had enough resources at my disposal. And the way I live my life is I use what's in my hand. And so what I felt like I had in my hand was knowledge of the issues. I had access to a national network. I had information and resources, and I knew people. So I felt like if we could organize people across the country and wherever, regardless of what their belief systems were and all of the other stuff, that if we could agree on one thing, that if we could agree on that she would not be left out, she would not be left behind, that was the thing that we would connect on, and that people would use what was in their hands wherever they were. So how that transformed me was to think about the power of one, and how the power of one grows exponentially when we all come together and have a common focus on justice, on impacting a system. And so how that transformed me is to think about, to continue to think about how to walk the journey out from beginning to end. That you can make a difference. You can make a difference in one person's life, and you can also make a difference in many people's lives. I guess one of the things that I would like to bring back from my community today is to encourage people to use their voices and their resources, especially around trans people who are impacted by not only domestic and sexual violence, but who are murdered at alarming rates, and that it is important for us to advocate for them, to advocate for their lives. And before we can advocate, we must be educated about that. So I'm encouraging people, especially people in faith communities, to learn, to understand, to listen, and to advocate for life, not for just certain people's lives, but also to understand that Black trans women are dying at alarming rates, and that we need to be inclusive in our faith communities, to understand the importance of speaking out in this area, on this issue, and use your faith to do that. Use your faith to do that. So I would like to send a message to the person who is not here today, is my mother. I want to say to my mother, you matter so much to me, and that I'm so glad you survived, and that I wish there were days that we could do this work together, and that I understand, even in your latter years, how impacted you are by the violence that you experienced. And that there are people like myself and so many others that care, and are working to make a difference now. There weren't shelters and places that you and so many other women in your lifetime could have gone to. But you survived, and that it's okay. We're okay. She still talks about the violence like it happened. On some days, she could talk about it like it happened yesterday. And, you know, sometimes healing is a long journey. She was, oftentimes abused by my father. And oftentimes I was in the middle of that, trying to save her life and the lives of my siblings. And so, yeah, it could have been different. It could have very well been different. It could have been that she shot and killed him and then spent time in prison. And what does that mean for me and my siblings, right? So, yeah, so when I heard about Marissa's case, it definitely connected me in a very deep way, that a mother would be separated from her children for 20 or 60 years. And so that was a very strong connecting point. And from there, I think everything just kind of evolved, and I wasn't thinking about what that meant. It was just what was in my heart. When women are leaving a relationship where there's domestic violence, they're at the most critical point in terms of their safety. And so the other point in which they respond to the violence is when their children are harmed. So yeah, I could definitely, relate to that. Absolutely. Yeah. I think one thing that I would like to remind our communities in terms of education is that so many women who are in prison are African American women and Latinas, and largely women who are in prison are victims of domestic and sexual violence. And that also too, that it doesn't stop there, that they are also sexually assaulted, they are raped while they're in prison. They're raped by the guards, they're raped by other inmates, and that we need to do a better job in terms of reaching out to them and supporting them while they're in prison, but also to do whatever we can to on the prevention end as well.